Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braj Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braj Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braj Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braj Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramams Parivrajacharya, Ashtotarshad, Shri Śrīmad Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada ki, Granth-raj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is entitled Amrish Maharaj Offended by Durvasa Muni, text number 26. Sa ittam bhakti yogena tapo yuktena parthivaha swadharmena harim prinan sarvan kamancha nirjaho. Saitam bhakti yogena tapo yuktena parthivaha swadharmena harim prinan sarvan kamancha nirjaho. Saitam bhakti yogena tapo yuktena parthivaha swadharmena harim prinan sarvan kamancha nirjaho. Yuktena parthivaha Swadharmena harin prinam pranam shanarjaho Saitam bhakti yogena tapo yuktena parthivaha Swadharmena harin prinam sarvan kaman sanarjaho. Matajis. Saitam bhakti yogena tapo yuktena parthiva Swadharmena harim prinam sarvan kaman chanarjaho Saitam bhakti yogena tapo yuktena parthiva Swadharmena harim prinam sarvan kaman chanarjaho. Word for word meanings, please repeat. Saha, he, Amrisha Maharaj. Itam, in this way. Bhakti yogena, by performing transcendental loving service to the Lord. Tapa yuktena, which is simultaneously the best process of austerity. Parthiva, the king. Swadharmena, by his constitutional activities. Harim, unto the Supreme Lord. Prinan, satisfying. Sarvan, all varieties of. Kaman, material desires. Shanai, gradually. Jaho, gave up. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta, Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. The king of this planet, Maharaj Amrisha, thus performed devotional service to the Lord and in this endeavor practiced severe austerity. Always satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his constitutional activities, he gradually gave up all material desires. Purport. Severe austerities in the practice of devotional service are of many varieties. For example, in worshipping the deity in the temple, there are certainly laborious activities. Shri Vigrahara Dhana Nityanana Shringaratan Mandira Marjanadau. One must decorate the deity, cleanse the temple, bring water from the Ganges and Yamuna, continue the routine work, perform arati many times, prepare first-class food for the deity, prepare dresses and so on. In this way, one must constantly be engaged in various activities, and the hard labor involved is certainly an austerity. Similarly, the hard labor involved in preaching, preparing literature, preaching to atheistic men and distributing literature door to door is of course an austerity. Tapo yuktena. Tapo divyam putraka. Such austerity is necessary. Yena sattvam shuddhet. By such austerity in devotional service, one is purified of material existence. Kaman shanair jahau. Indeed, such austerity leads one to the constitutional position of devotional service. In this way, one can give up material desires. And as soon as one is freed from material desires, he is free from the repetition of birth and death, old age and disease. That's the end of purport. Om Agyantimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So shloka and translation once more. Saitam bhakti yogena tapo yuktena parthiva swadharmena harim prinan sarvan kaman shanarjaho. The king of this planet, Maharaj Ambrish, thus performed devotional service to the Lord, and in this endeavor practiced severe austerity, always satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By his constitutional activities, he gradually gave up all material desires. Hare Krishna. So here we are discussing about Maharaj Ambrish, who is an exemplary king from the history of this planet Earth. And we find his name in Nectar of Devotion also, where Rupa Goswami quotes a verse which actually gives example of great devotees who exemplify all the 9 processes of bhakti. So there Rupa Goswami mentions that you can become perfect in your devotional service by practicing just one of the 9 processes, or you can practice 2 of them, or 3, 4, or all 9. And then Rupa Goswami gives examples of devotees who have perfected their spiritual life by practicing just one of those processes. For example, by hearing. Does anyone know who became perfect by hearing? Parikshit Maharaj. And then by chanting is Shukdev Goswami. He was reciting Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and Parikshit Maharaj was hearing. And so on, there's examples of for all 9 processes. And then Rupa Goswami says there's an example of Ambrish Maharaj, who actually was performing all these 9 processes, and he perfected all 9 processes. So few days back we heard those 3 famous verses where it's written in Bhagavatam how Maharaj Ambrish was following all the 9 processes: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. So Ambrish Maharaj was doing all the 9 processes, and he was doing them perfectly. So here's those 3 verses, and all the lists is given. Maharaj Ambrish always engaged his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Lord, his words in describing the glories, and so on, his hands in cleansing the temple. So we have 10 senses, and then there is the mind, that's the 11th. Usually we say there are 5 senses, and sometimes we say there are 6 senses, but then we also hear there are 10 senses. So much confusion. So these are the details given in Shastra. So there are 5, usually when we say there are 5 senses, they are the 5 knowledge acquiring senses: nose, eyes, ears, skin, and tongue. And then there are also 5 working senses: hands, legs, and the speech, like that. So here, in these 3 verses that we read in the same 4th chapter, verses 18 to 20, it's described how Ambrish Maharaj was actually engaging all his senses, the 10 senses and the mind, in Krishna's service. So, and these verses are so important that Prabhupada has quoted them in many places, even in 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita in his purports. So we have to actually make devotees like Ambrish Maharaj our ideal and then follow. Everyone has an ideal. In one purport in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Prabhupada writes, Mahajano yen gatasa pantha. Everyone follows some Mahajan, or Mahajan means great person. So for different people, different so-called great personalities are worshipable, or their ideals. And then Prabhupada lists, for someone, Darwin may be Mahajan, like that. So for some different celebrities, sports stars, Hollywood actors, for some people, these personalities are worshipable. They are their Mahajans. And I've heard in India, they have, some places, they have even temples of some sports stars and Bollywood actors. So for some people, these personalities are their Mahajan, worshipable. But for devotees, Govindam Adi Purusham Tam Aham Bhajami. For us, the greatest personality is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no one greater to Him, and there is no one equal to Him. That's why another name of Krishna is Asamordhva, or another quality, that there cannot be anyone equal or greater. So that is Krishna. So we actually have Krishna as our ideal personality, and then also the pure devotees who follow in the footsteps of previous great devotees who are Krishna's devotees. So we have these personalities as our ideal. So Maharaj Amrish is such an example of such great personality. So while hearing different verses about Maharaj Amrish, in previous classes, in text number 15, we heard Amrisho Mahabhaga Swap Sapta Dvipavatim Mahim. That Amrish Maharaj was ruling this entire world consisting of 7 islands. So while preparing yesterday, I was thinking in few places in Bhagavatam, there is mention of these Sapta Dvipa, 7 islands. And there can be a confusion there that those 7 islands, in those who have read 5th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, there is description of the structure of the universe. And there it is described, there is, in the middle planetary system, we have Bhumandala, which is divided into 7 islands in the shape of rings. And then in between each island, there is an ocean, also in a form of a circle. So there are 7 oceans and 7 islands. So does the Sapta Dvipa means those 7 islands? But here we see it is described that in today's verse also it says the king of this planet. So in some places Prabhupada writes those 7 islands are the 7 continents on this planet. Because Jambu Dvipa is, the Bhumandala itself is a very big area. Those who have read 5th canto, they know. And our planet is a small part near the Himalaya mountains, like that. So here, what I could see is, because the words like Parthiva, Mahim, like that, and are mentioned, and in translations also Prabhupada writes that Maharaj Amrish was ruling this planet, Earth. But then there were kings who were ruling the whole Bhumandala as well, like Priyavrata. He was ruling all of those 7 big islands. And then he gave each island to one of his sons. And those sons divided each island into further 7 or 9 parts and gave sovereignty to their sons, like that. So these descriptions are there. And there is a lot of detail in 5th canto for those who are interested. Some devotees have interest in, different parts of Bhagavatam. But 5th canto usually is a challenge for most people, but some devotees are interested. I know one brahmachari who used to work in the Baba Space Research Center in Mumbai. So he's a scientist and now he's a brahmachari. So for him, these details are ecstatic. So he could go, even in his descriptions, he would go very far in describing. But those who cannot, that's also okay. Ultimately, we have to understand from Bhagavad Gita, if we understand Ekam Shena Sthito Jagat, Krishna actually explains all the vibhutis, all the great manifestations that are present within this world, within this universe, that represent the Supreme Lord. And he describes all these different manifestations of Supreme Lord in material world. And in the end of 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Ekam Shena Sthito Jagat. What is the use of understanding so much if you can just understand that this whole universe, or actually the whole material creation, is just a fragment of myself. And it's a temporary manifestation. As we know, when the Mahavishnu is lying on the causal ocean, he breathes out. When he breathes out, all the universes come out of his bodily pores and his nostrils. And then when he breathes in, all the universes go into his body. So the duration of all the universes, or this material creation, lasts for only one breath of Mahavishnu. It's so short. And we take it very seriously sometimes. We take our lives so seriously. This is my life. I'm doing this. These are my goals. For each person, their goals are very important. According to different age and circumstance, we have different goals. A child may want a toy or something, or a push bike or something like that, and an older person may want something else. And we take it very seriously. These are my goals. What do they call? We have the list. These are a bucket list. And we want to cross each item on the bucket list, the checklist. Yes, this I wanted, and I worked so hard for this, and now I have got it. And what's the next item? And this keeps going on. There's never an end. And these are material desires. But here in Amrish Maharaj's example, we see it's said here, Sarvan Kaman Shaner Jaho. He gave up all material desires. So desires in itself, we shouldn't give up all desires, but just the material desires. We should have spiritual desires for serving Krishna. So we just have to purify our desires. So Maharaj Amrish is such a perfect example. He engaged his senses in Krishna's service, and by his example, he encouraged the citizens to purify their senses and dedicate their senses in Krishna's service. So such is a great leader. And yad yad acharati shreshtas tat tad evetaro jana. So general people follow the great personality. As they act, the others also want to act. So there is a big responsibility on the leaders to follow all the rules and regulations, because their dependents are watching. For parents, Prabhupada writes in the purport of that shloka in Bhagavad Gita 4.11. No, sorry, what's the shloka? Yadyada 421, 321. That there are natural leaders, teachers, parents, the king or the head of a country. They are natural leaders because they have dependents and followers. So they have to act in a perfect way. Otherwise, Rishabdev says, don't become a leader. Don't become a father, don't become a mother, don't become a relative, don't become like that. He lists various things. Guru na satya, don't become a guru. If you don't want to follow certain standard, then better not become a leader. Become a good follower first and then a good leader. Recently someone was giving that example that a mother took her son to the great sage and requested that, please tell my son not to eat too much sweets. Then the sage said, okay, come back after a week. And then he said, okay, you shouldn't eat too many sweets. And the mother asked, why did you not tell the same thing a week back? He said, because I was eating too many sweets. So I couldn't say that. So practice what you preach. So that's why there's a big responsibility on the leaders. And naturally, whoever is present here, we are part of the human race. So humans have a great responsibility to set a good example for those humans who are not practicing scriptural rules and regulations. Other species are very tightly bound by the laws of material nature. They cannot listen to and understand and practice the rules of scriptures. So human beings have this responsibility of following all the rules and regulations. Otherwise, there is a danger of going back to those species. So what if we imagine a next life, we can become an insect or a bird. Yesterday in ashram, I was trying to have little honey. There was a squeezy small bottle, and as I opened it, there was a little worm there, very tiny worm. So I was thinking, okay, I could actually crush it and kill the worm and throw it. But of course, as devotees, we learn the principles of ahimsa, which each life is precious. So, but that time I was thinking, this tiny little worm also has a soul in it. But what miserable existence it is, just a tiny worm trying to get a fragment of that honey, and then someone big person comes and tries to remove it. So we should think like that am I following or am I living up to the responsibility of human life, or is there any scope for improvement? This should be our question to ourselves daily. And usually when I sometimes remember to ask this question to myself, there is a lot of scope for improvement. So we are work in progress. So by taking guidance from seniors and our spiritual master, we try to improve and live up to the responsibility of human life, live up to the responsibility of being a devotee, and whatever our ashram and duties are, we should live up to those standards. And then, because Krishna is watching, he's watching from within the heart, he's watching from outside, he's watching from everywhere. In 6th canto, it says there are 13 witnesses on behalf of Krishna. There's other witnesses as well, the day, the night, the air, the sun, like that. So we are being watched. We don't like to be watched. Like there's this recording happening here, so I have to be mindful of that. Previously, I think I was here, I've been away for 10 years. Previously, only it was audio recorded, but now it's video recorded, so the speakers have to be even more careful. So if no one is watching, we act in a certain way, and if someone is watching, we may act in a certain way. But actually, we are under this supervision all the time. Those 13 witnesses, and what to speak of, Krishna is there within the heart as super soul. He's always watching. If you want to do something which is against the laws of a place, you look everywhere, and look on the corner of the room or the hall. Is there a camera there? Is there a CCTV? Is there a camera here? Oh, there's a camera there. There's a camera here. Okay, I'll behave now. But what if we actually think like that every time? I remember in my teenage, I used to read that magazine called the Reader's Digest. Sometimes I used to read, and in that I remember for some days I followed that instruction. I couldn't follow much, but it was given there that if you want to create a good impression on the public, and especially, of course, the opposite gender, then just imagine, wherever you go, just imagine someone is watching you from above. That time, the these cameras were not so prevalent, but so they said someone is watching from above. So for a few days I followed, oh yes, how should I walk? How should I act? Someone is watching. And then when you go in public, then you also perform very well and you create a good impression. But we have to understand we are actually under watch and we are getting points. We recite the book points every morning. But there is someone noting our points. And it is described in the scriptures that if we have performed sinful activities, then we have to go to the court of Yamaraj. And then there is his assistant, Chitragupta. He has the list of all your activities. You have done this sin, like that. And their office is located in the bottom of the universe, near all the hellish planets. And then they see, okay, you have done this sin, so you should go to this hellish planet. Again, in 5th canto, in the last chapter, there's a description of 28 hellish planets. People think, oh, we have done sin, everyone is doing, so we'll be saved, no one is watching. If someone is driving a car, for example, and it says 100 kilometers speed limit, and you say, I can't see any police car or camera, okay, let's go on a high speed. No one is watching. So yes, this government that we have on this planet, these different governments and police, they have their limitations, so we may be spared sometimes. But the universal management is very perfect. We will not be spared. Because their witnesses, as we mentioned, all these witnesses, day, night, sun, moon, they are present everywhere. And they are keeping all the record. So we have to be very careful and mindful. So in Bhakti Yoga, Amrish Maharaj is actually showing the example of a great ruler, how to perform spiritual activities and set a very good example. And previously, as we read in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita, there was the system of a great monarch. Monarchy system was there. Rajarshis were there. They were kings, but they were rishis also, because they were well learned in the knowledge of scriptures. They knew what is the supreme goal of human life. And they would encourage the citizens to follow all the rules so that they can achieve perfection of life. So that was the system. But as Kali Yuga has progressed, we see there's degradation, and there's in modern day, so-called modern day, we have a democratic form of government, and that's considered to be superior to all the previous forms. So what should be our stance? Is democracy better, or autocracy, or dictatorship? What is better? Is democracy better, or anyone for democracy? It's one. Anyone for monarchy, dictatorship? So basically, if there is a dictator and he's not a devotee, then there's a big problem. That's why they deride this dictatorship in modern day, that people should be free to choose their leader, because power corrupts. If someone is in the supreme power, then they tend to exploit their citizens a lot. That's why most countries say the dictatorship is bad. What if we were in North Korea or something like that? So basically for devotees, the Kali Yuga itself is a great disadvantage, but there is one advantage only. Kaler dosh nidhe rajan asti eko mahan guna Kirtanadeva Krishnasya mukta sangha param rajit. There is only one good thing. If we are looking for any second good thing, then we won't be able to find it, and we are at fault. It will be a futile attempt to find a second good thing. There is only one good thing. So, in whichever country we are placed, and if the government allows the chanting of Hare Krishna, so we should count our blessings. We are very fortunate. So, the government is, whatever form it is, it's not too degraded. Because in some countries you cannot openly chant, you cannot do Harinams, or even you're not allowed to do chanting in a gathering, in a group. So there are some countries, some places in the world like that. So we should be happy to be in a place where chanting of Hare Krishna is allowed, and we should take full advantage of that. Of course, we would praise the government if they don't promote sense gratification and promote bhakti directly. But in Kali Yuga, we have to make the best, the best of the bad bargain. So this is a Kali Yuga itself is bad bargain. So elections in Australia are coming up, and different parties, they promote different things. So we will make housing cheaper, and we'll give more jobs, like that. Usually it's like that. And I was looking, one party, I think, is saying, get Australia back on track. Get Australia back on track. So what is there's different conceptions of back on track. According to the scripture, back on track is, okay, engage your senses in Krishna's service. But I don't think that's what they mean. Back on track is usually, okay, smooth sense gratification. Easy sense gratification. Whenever there is an obstacle in sense gratification, oh, that is a problem. We want to get Australia back on track of smooth and easy sense gratification. But here in our Krishna Consciousness Society, we are educating people and learning how to get back on track to our original constitutional position. And actually here, in today's verse, in the third line, we see Swadharmena Harim Prinan. The king of this planet, Maharaj Amrish, thus performed devotional service to the Lord, and in this endeavor practiced severe austerity. By his constitutional activities, he gradually gave up all material desires. So here this word is given, Swadharma. In Bhagavad Gita also we learn there are two types of Swadharma. One is constitutional activities and then conditional activities. So we are essentially the spiritual soul, and then we have the body. So we have to actually do activities pertaining to the soul as well as activities pertaining to the body. So we have to balance those activities. And both are Swadharma. The only difference is the constitutional spiritual activities are permanent. Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing, chanting, these are permanent activities. That will continue. We will continue these activities when we go back to Godhead in spiritual world. We'll continue these activities. But the conditional activities according to our body and time and age, those conditional activities are temporary. But still we have to perform those activities. In priority they are secondary. Primary importance has to be given to our constitutional activities. So that's why Krishna is very practical. He is most practical. In one purport, Prabhupada writes, Krishna will never suggest something impractical. How will God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin of all knowledge, how can he suggest something impractical? But sometimes when we read Bhagavad Gita, we think, or Bhagavatam, we think, oh, this part I like, this other part is a bit uncomfortable and impractical. I can't follow this part. But why will Krishna suggest something impractical? So according to different circumstance, Krishna actually suggests how to do your conditional activities also. And he suggests the Varnashram system. So in Varnashrama system, we have these 8 different positions. According to the psychophysical makeup, we follow the rules of these particular varnas and ashramas, social orders and spiritual orders. And then, while being comfortably placed in Varnashrama system, then we perform our constitutional spiritual activities of hearing and chanting. So, Varnashrama positions are given so that we are comfortably placed. So, those are secondary positions, upadhis, given so that we are comfortably placed in those positions so that we can perform our primary activities, the constitutional activities. And one example I heard was if someone practices martial arts or some sort of combat. I think Rasikendra Prabhu knows some martial art. Anyone else has learnt any martial arts? So in martial arts they teach how you take a stance, a particular stance, how you stand and how you place your arms. Is that correct? They teach you different stance, how do you stand, so that you are in a position in which you are in control of your body and you can kick or punch properly with the greatest impact. So stance is very important. But the main thing is fighting if someone is learning that. What if they only teach you different stance? Okay, you stand like this and like this, but they don't teach you how to hit, then what's the use? So in that way, in India or amongst Indian families, you would see many people say, yes, oh, I am a grahastha, I'm in grahasti. Like that they say. Even if they are not devotees, they would say like that. So it's like saying, okay, I'm placed like that, I'm placed, but not punching, which means you may be placed in one of the ashramas, but if you are not performing hearing and chanting or devotional service, it's just like that. You are in different stances, but you are not kicking or punching. Anyone will come and punch you. Maya will come and punch you. So being in one of the ashramas or varnas in itself is not sufficient. Those positions are there so we are comfortable, and then we can perform our devotional activities. So in terms of ashramas, someone is comfortable as a brahmachari, someone is comfortable, or most are comfortable as grahasthas. So that's okay. So under guidance, we can choose one of the positions and see in which position we can perform our constitutional swadharma activities properly. If there is a problem, then we can discuss with our seniors that I am not able to practice bhakti, because bhakti is ahetuki apratihata. It should be performed, pure devotional service should be performed without any motivation, and it should be uninterrupted. So if there is interruption in our devotional service, which means we are not properly placed, or we need some adjustments, and that's why we have our seniors and acharyas. So Maharaj Amrish, he was a king, a kshatriya king, and in Grahastha ashram, and he was performing his activities so perfectly. He would delegate all the services to his managerial services to his managers, ministers, and he would perform all the 9 processes of bhakti very perfectly. And how he would perform, it's mentioned here. Bhakti yogena tapo yuktena. Severe austerities in the practice of devotional service are of many varieties. So we do have austerities in bhakti yoga as well, but they are not as severe as the austerities of, for example, Gyan yoga or Ashtanga yoga. If you hear the austerities of Ashtanga Yoga. Even Arjuna, when he heard about the austerities of Ashtanga Yoga, that was towards the end of Dwapar Yuga, he said, I cannot follow all these austerities. So what to speak of us, who can't even take a cold shower in 20-degree temperature. So what to speak of going to Himalayas and practicing those austerities. What are the austerities that we have? Prabhupada gives example here. Like in worshipping deity in the temple, we have to follow certain austerities. To keep everything clean, to be on time, it requires a lot of austerities. That's why those who get Brahman initiation, they have to go through certain stages. You can't just get Brahman Diksha very quickly. You have to demonstrate that you are up to that level of austerity. Being on time, being clean, and doing everything properly according to scriptures. So like that. And then we have 4 regulative principles, waking up early. So these are austerities. There is some austerity in Krishna consciousness, but those austerities are helpful, conducive for our spiritual practice. So Amrish Maharaj is actually showing a perfect example how we can very easily engage all our senses in Krishna's service and perform our both type of swadharmas, constitutional and conditional, perfectly, in perfect balance. So I would like to end there and see if we have any devotees have any questions or comments. Any corrections?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank
Hare
you
Krishna.
for the nice class. Prabhu, I wanted to ask, by doing austerities, will that help us in removing our desires, or will we have to put in our own efforts or pray to Lord Krishna to remove our desires? Because we see the sages who have been doing austerities and penances, they do not have any desires at all. So I am thinking, like, if by doing austerities and not completing bhakti, will they also go back home, back to Godhead?
Very good question. So are austerities in itself, are they powerful enough to take us back to Godhead? So answer is no. We have to get rid of all the material desires, and material desires go away only when we get the higher taste. That's why in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, in the beginning, it is said, Shinvatam swakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantasto yabhadrani vidunoti suhet satam. So all these material desires from the heart will be removed by these processes of bhakti, hearing and chanting. So austerities are conducive, but in itself they are not enough to take us back to Godhead. And it is said, if you just perform austerities and do not perform any hearing, chanting, then actually our heart becomes hard. But for bhakti, we have to actually melt our heart. We have to be, like Prahlad Maharaj says, his heart was so melted. That's why a devotee is para dukkha dukhi. He sees the suffering of others. His heart is so soft. But if you just perform austerity, then heart becomes hard. I always give this example of these Naga Babas. If someone knows, recently we had the Mahakumbha in India. So every now and then there are these Kumbhas, Kumbha Mela and Ardha Kumbha Melas. And then these yogis, these sages who are performing siddhis, Ashtanga Yoga, they are perfect, these material perfections, they also come. So one time before I was in Krishna consciousness, I was watching news, and these yogis had come to this Kumbha to take dip in the holy Triveni, the rivers there. And they became very angry that they were not given first priority to take a dip. Someone else took the dip, holy dip first. So they are performing all these austerities, but they have these impurities still. Anger is a big impurity. Lust, anger, greed, All these are the enemies of our heart. So just by performing austerities, we cannot get rid of these enemies. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Any other question or comment? Okay, so we'll finish here. Thank you very much. Granth Raj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.